Descent into Darkness, a Call of Cthulhu campaign.
Alright, hello and welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness Season 4, The City of Lost Pillars. This is episode 12, and I am Keeper Travis. We return now to the journey towards Sana'a in the Yemeni Highlands. But first, let us get an introduction from our investigators.
I'm Brandon. I'll be playing Bartholomew Wentworth, and currently I've switched places with Bo Whiteman, who was whining about the smell in the truck he was in.
Oh, man. I'm Chris. I'm playing Charles Stanton, the guide for this expedition, as well as a big game hunter in his off time. And I haven't killed anyone in quite some time, but the jazz music stopped.
At least it's not all bad.
The band followed us out.
Mr. Stanton had given the call to load up in the trucks and continue your journey. So you're heading into the afternoon. The weather is sunny and clear. It reaches its peak temperature of about 78 degrees, but at least the humidity has gone down quite a bit. And you're not actually walking on your own power. You're just riding in the back of the truck. So with the wind, it's pretty pleasant, actually, of a journey. Except, I'll remind you, there are no modern shocks or things like that. So it's bumpy. And there's lots of things that occur where the trucks need to stop. They overheat or, blow a tire. Those sorts of things happen quite often.
Yeah, I especially wouldn't be surprised if it was like, as far as shocks go, if it was worse, because these were like found work trucks.
Yeah. They're of a German make, although you guys aren't too familiar with it, but they probably liberated them from the Ottomans that were once in this area. But as you journey up into the highlands, something inside you begins to stir, particularly for those who do this sort of thing, right? You're moving away from being stuck on trains or boats or in hotels and into where, the guided tour will come to an end. And so this wanderlust begins to fill your hearts. Odd vitality courses through your veins, although for those in the know, that does go away at a point.
Eventually boredom sets in.
Oh, and just the exhaustion of, riding or walking.
Yeah, plus the elevation.
But you get this insatiable urge to see behind every new bend and peak that's just growing in your mind, like you can't get enough to sate that hunger. The terrain is rugged and filled with twists and turns, making it slow going for the trucks. As you climb into the foothills, there are signs of a recent conflict. So you see craters blasted into the earth and stacks of spent artillery. I don't know if you guys have ever seen photos of those from the Great War, but they'll have these mounds of all the casings. So you see that they're apparently fresh, not a holdover from where the Great War touched this land, but for something or from
Local.
Something more recent. I think you guys had heard rumblings, both of you, that the Kingdom of Yemen was in conflict with the British and their Aden Protectorate in the Hadramaut that bordered the country. All right, so the view from one side of the road is spectacular, showing you miles of rocky mountains and valleys covered in green shrubs, trees, and cacti. Occasionally you see terraced farms with little distant figures tending to crops. If you were to squint, Mr. Wentworth, it would almost be like traveling up to Mexico City. Here, I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
So yeah, you guys pause to let the trucks cool down, and you're just standing at the edge of the road looking over that rocky terrain. You even have the cactus there. So it is oddly familiar to you, right? In a way. Even like the terraced farms, the structures are what set it apart when you see they're adobe still structures, but they have completely different construction style.
Yeah, I've been here before.
So The truck stopped for the day in a relatively flat valley where a crude brick wall runs alongside the road. On the far side of the valley are waterfalls and pools. The men of Stanton Expeditions construct a camp with practiced efficiency. Although the air has dried a little, the night appears like it's going to be comfortable. Only cooking fires will be needed. And already, Mr. Wentworth, you see a natural division among the men. Same with you, Mr. Stanton. It's nothing really concerning and not really unexpected. It's simply the demarcation between Stanton's men and those who journeyed with you, Mr. Wentworth. There is one oddity in a way where Bo Whiteman and his 2 geologists have their little fire for tea, and they're kind of situated a little off from where the rest of the people that came via train are. But they're still within your circle of influence, you might say. Currently, Mr. Stedford has the attention of Dr. Morgan and Curtis Cooper as he recounts a tale of his previous journey through the lands. This occurs after the camp's set up. The men of Stanton Expeditions, once their duties are done, are at ease, knowing full well that the opportunity to rest must never be wasted. You see Ray there. Mr. Stanton share a sip from his flask with Matvey, and they wordlessly stare out at the night sky. There's a mess area below a canvas canopy, and this is open to anybody, where Victor Andrade goes to work preparing a fish stew with potatoes and okra along with unleavened bread and rice. This ends up being neutral ground once he rings the bell for dinner, and a fair bit of mixing occurs between the different groups. Even the Yemeni truck drivers are happy to break bread with the strangers, and later on, I guess there's several of them, are drawn into Mexican Monty, yet another victim of Victor Andrade. And as the sun is fully settled, you'll see Jackson Elias go off a short distance and perch on a rock where he scribbles by lantern light in a little journal. And then you see the curious sight of Bahram Ibn Salah setting up his small telescope on a tripod, and he angles it towards the northeastern night sky, where he, stands still, just gazing, like looking at the eyepiece, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is no O'Lafferty's in this distant high country where gentlemen can sit over breakfast or dinner and discuss the day's events. But there is a small fire for tea near the mess, where Francesco is carefully tending to a pot of boiling water. Nigel Stedford approaches you, Mr. Stanton, and wonders if you might share a drink with him. He's got a little leather flask. Care for a drink, Mr. Stanton?
I'll get over the initial, nausea of, looking in a mirror, but only... That's the right guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
You both have a dizzy spell for a moment.
No. Certainly. If you'll share a smoke, and I'll offer him a cheroot.
Of course. This is the sign of a of a true man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's a local spirit called Arak. I managed to track it down when we were passing through Hodeidah. It's it'll knock your boots off if you didn't lace them properly this morning. And he offers you to pour some in a little tin cups that you guys have, right?
Yeah. I'll hold my cup out.
Yeah, there's a faint. Well, you smell the alcohol first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very strong, and there's a faint smell of licorice. You would think to it.
Okay.
And you can give me a Constitution roll as you sip at it.
Should have known it was a trap.
He's also measuring your worth. How'd you do?
Hard success.
Nice. So it is strong, stronger than you would drink for pleasure, but most of us have found ourselves in the same situation where a drink is strong and you offer it to the unwary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little fun rite of passage you can do. But you handle it like a champ.
Yeah, to the journey ahead. And I'll knock mine back and, that was rather pleasant. Thank you, Mr. Was it Stedford?
Stedford, yeah.
Stedford.
So from there, he goes into what he kind of did to Mr. Wentworth on the train, where it's polite conversation that if you were to pass a psychology roll, you might understand it's intended to gauge your expertise.
Okay.
And following that psychology, you can give him your desert survival or navigation, whichever you prefer.
Oh, so I get a choice here?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll go navigation always. Fail? Nope, success.
Well done. So yeah, the particulars of his inquiry is about an expedition you led some years ago to the Eye of the Sahara, right? Which is pretty close to where you're stationed down there in Morocco. And this was just some college in Britain that wanted to go investigate it. Because, there's rumors of it being a potential location to lost Atlantis or marks of it. This strange structure in the Sahara. If you guys have a moment to Google it or are aware of it, it is pretty interesting looking.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, that's where he says he's heard of you. I told you I was not lying, Mr. Stedford. I never like to give credit to my competitors.
Stanton.
Oh, yeah, Stanton. Sorry, I'm Stedford, right. It's all about me. Anyhow, did you find Atlantis buried there?
Of course not.
Yes, we never do find what these academics are looking for, do we?
I've always found it to be the case, but the journey itself is really what I live for. It doesn't matter if I find some lost civilization for some bookworm. It's going to the place, encountering the people, imbibing in the culture of the area, and then, if need be, wiping it out.
And that we are mostly agreed, yes. I wonder if this journey will break our combined streak of never finding any of those mysterious things that others look for, but...
I'll let the liquor kind of do some talking here.
Okay.
I never said never. I just said in that case, Mr. Stanford.
Oh, do tell, Mr. Stanton.
Well, we did, in fact, recently in Peru find a forgotten, was it Mesoamerican, with that Mesoamerican pyramid. And it proved to be more than what you academics might call a supernatural experience. But it's all part of the natural world to me.
Oh, yes, this was the Larkin expedition,
Well,
right?
that hopped up smackhead barely made it out of this city. We abandoned him once his betrayal became obvious.
And what's your gauge of Mr. Wentworth? Do you think he's the kind of man that will betray us like your Larkin? I so far like him well enough, but I'm still taking the measure of the man.
Now I'll pause for a bit and think on it.
I don't particularly like the man, but I don't think he'll turn traitor.
Yes, I don't think so either.
I also believe it's kind of hard for him to turn traitor. This is his expedition. It would be my bunch of ne'er-do-wells and thugs that would probably be top of the list if I was to be honest. Then the oilmen.
Yes, I saw from a distance you and him had a bit of a discussion. Didn't look friendly from your end of things.
No conversation with an American should ever be friendly, especially one such as himself.
There are far too many Americans here to make me completely comfortable. I'm more at ease with the truck drivers than they.
Oh, they're fine. Salt of the earth.
So we'll pause there for a moment. And Mr. Wentworth, you've had your bedding laid down, which you saw Stanton had also brought a fair amount of cots and things of that nature, although not necessary to keep you off of the hot ground at this stage. That's usually a good idea, like, because once the ground, you don't want that temperature from the ground baking into your body. It's not necessary, but those are available if you would prefer to set out a cot and what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you have your bedding set up, and you hear the heavy footfalls of Mr. Arbogast.
Okay.
Come up. And he's got his bedding tucked under his arm, and he's like, "You don't mind if I sleep right here, do you, sir?"
And
Sorry, I messed up with his voice. He's supposed to be more like a butler type, but I kept going into my version of Stanton last time.
sleep where you want, just as long as you don't snore.
Well, to that I cannot speak, sir.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Do you have a moment for conversation before we turn in?
I suppose.
Just wondering what sort of man has caught the interest of our fair lady.
A scoundrel.
That's her favorite sort.
A man with no honestly good intentions towards her. She's merely meant to pass the time on the sea voyage.
Oh, you have made a miscalculation of...
It seems so.
Of significant magnitude, sir.
It certainly seems so.
He also has that Enfield that Stanton told him that he had to
Yeah.
carry. He looks like a man carrying a woman's purse. With
Okay.
it, like the way he...
So, Arbogast, do you know how to operate that?
Oh, I think so, sir.
Well, here. Let's not think so. Let's be sure. And so then I'll teach him
The basics of it?
all the
Okay.
all the workings of it. And then, yeah, I mean that's a good way to pass the evening as any. I'll drill him like he was you
Right.
know, and teach him how to hold it and use it and load it and take care of it. And that then, if he wants to talk while we're doing that, that's fine.
Yeah, which he does. And they're all in his own way. He's not really trying to be subtle. He's just
Yeah.
trying to see who you are. And he doesn't really make a judgment of he thinks you might be joking about this. You're a scoundrel. And
Well, I have no intention of insulting you, and obviously you hold the Lady Waverly in high regard, and so I mean no offense at all, but I just took a fancy to her, and I thought we'd pass the time together on a long and boring sea voyage. I don't think I gave her any indication whatsoever that it was more than that, and I gotta wonder about a woman's taste if she's taken to me like this. I mean, did you not see my attempt at dancing?
I think that is precisely what made you enchanting to her, sir. This rugged Americanness has been quite romanticized in the books that she reads.
No, that I can understand.
She spoke quite highly of a moment at dinner where you were threatening to pull your knife on anybody that looked you crossways. But there's no accounting for the tastes of women, so you should know that, even at your young age.
Well, this expedition will prove to be a long one. It's my hope that by the time we're done with it, she'll have grown bored of waiting and moved on. Surely there are rugged individuals where she lives that she can...
I would not place a wager on
to.
it, sir, but we'll see. Sir, I want you to know that above all men here, you can count on me, not for the reason you think, but because I hold the Lady Waverly dear in my heart.
You don't want to disappoint her by returning to tell her that I've died on this expedition.
No, sir, I'd rather die here in the desert with you.
Well, a lot of people have done just that in this area of the world. We might both find ourselves in those circumstances.
Well,
I mean, I've traveled in deserts, but this is something else entirely. It's also steeped in myth and legend, and it's impossible to tell what's the truth. You'll find plenty of people that will look you straight in the face and tell you lunatic things as if it's entirely true. So it makes it hard to figure out what actually we're in for out here.
and are you a student of myth and legend, sir?
I haven't been traditionally until my service ended and I went into the employ of Dr. Andrews, my benefactor. And he has, perhaps against his will, made quite a study of it. So I've picked up a few things and heard some things from him. And I trust him. So when he tells me something outlandish, at least I assume there's some truth to it that I'm not able to comprehend. Yeah, until recently, I didn't give much attention to this sort of thing.
Yes, I give very little thought to those matters myself. I'm more of a one problem at a time, one foot in front of the other sort of fellow. That's how you strike me as well.
Yeah, that generally seems to be the best way to go about things.
If I may offer a bit of advice, sir.
Please.
That other American, I don't know his name. I don't think you were having a discussion with him earlier about moving his place in the trucks.
Yes, but that's Bo Whiteman. He's a oil man. He's hoping to strike it rich out here. And I was glad to bring him along in case he does.
Well, if you can't just kill him, sir, my advice is to always ask for his advice. In a small matter that means little to you. I find men like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I like to have the ego stroked, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. That's good. That's good advice. Do you have to call me sir?
Would be a hard habit to break, sir.
But you're right. Yeah, he's exactly the kind of man that's going to require that. You know what I think a man like what I think might make a man like that feel really welcome and valued is if he had, say, a person who's made a whole life of serving others to see to his needs.
Well,
Do you know anybody like that, Mr. Arbogast?
I know what you're hinting at, but that would make my job quite difficult, sir. It'd be difficult to keep an eye on you from all the way by him.
But I give you my word, I'm not going anywhere without everybody else. I'm the leader of the expedition.
But it's not where you're going, sir, that disturbs me. It's what might come at you, the knife in the dark sort of thing.
You mean like this one?
Oh, dear God.
When it comes to knives in the dark...
what a garish, ghastly, ostentatious blade you have there.
When it comes to knives in the dark, I'll be the one doing the protecting, Mr. Arbogast. You need not worry about that. But you're right. Of all the people with us, he's the one most likely to cause us trouble. And so if we grease that pig, surely we can work together on this, Mr. Arbogast, since you're coming along.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm happy to be of service.
Well, thank you for the advice. And tomorrow, let's we'll commence with Operation Butter Up.
Butter up that southern East Texas
Greased pig. I like that. Yeah, Operation Greased Pig.
Operation Greased Pig. I like it. That's what it is from now on.
All right, back over to the fire next to the mess tent where Mr. Stanton and Mr. Stedford are talking well into the night. You can... Oh, go ahead and give me the psychology. This is just to determine if you actually see what... Like, he's not just being friendly. He's not being unfriendly, but...
No.
So, yeah, it's just shop talk as far as you can tell. And...
I'd like... Keep forgetting I'm not a game master half the time when I start trying to do this.
Go ahead, start game mastering.
No, it's like his actual intentions would be lost, what he's fishing for. But I know I'm going to use
an unsolicited...
a shit test when I see it, right?
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. It's something like all guys have to put up with.
Yeah.
So he's testing me for something, feeling me out.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, that's fine. You just don't get like the conclusions he might draw, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with
those
that.
are kind of concealed. Francesco has been tending that small fire there, and he throws some more fuel into it. When he does that, when he throws this bundle of stuff that had been set there, there's suddenly a big puff of like greenish smoke that comes out of whatever got thrown in there, right? And it fills your little area of the camp pretty quickly and has you guys choking on it quite rapidly. It's got like an acrid taste. I don't know if you've ever thrown certain things in a fire, how they'll just suddenly be kind of reactive, right? Yeah. So it's not like a mystical sort of thing that occurs, but anyhow, yeah. So you guys are both, you and Stedford are both like gagging, and Francesco for that matter. So give me a power roll.
This is my lowest one. Here we go. Ooh, failure.
Let's see who else happened to be nearby. So the effects are, as far as like choking you up, are pretty short term, and you move away from the smoke. Nigel Stedford, doesn't have unkind words for Francesco, but he's telling him to check what he throws in the fire next time, boy. But afterwards, you do feel a little heady. It would be similar to like a nicotine high or something in that way, right? But it doesn't depart as quickly, and you're left with that feeling until you turn in for the night. Oh, Brandon, could you roll your rifle skill for me? See how well you were doing with your instruction.
Where are you? Okay, there we go. He's just not a good learner. Let me push it.
You might as well.
Yeah.
Have a negligent discharge. Everyone needs a couple desk pops.
There we go.
Okay.
And so basically he's trying to answer questions or interrupt me, or he's trying to say what he thinks or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey,
Right.
I'll just show you start to finish. Right.
Yeah. You have encountered people on occasion who, well, first off, when you teach anybody anything, if they have no interest in it, it makes the task that much more difficult. And you have on occasion come across folks who don't seem to have interest in firearms, and that's, what kind of people are those? But he appears to be one of those people who there's nothing interesting in a weapon by itself to him, right?
Yeah.
Like he finds it kind of distasteful And he kind of mutters when he doesn't get stuff right away, and you have to repeat it about, I'm just punching a cat works fine.
Yeah, no, this just,
But it's not. But you can't punch him at 300 meters.
If it helps.
Are you sure of that, sir?
This is Cthulhu. Yeah. If it helps, just consider it a requirement of the job.
Okay. That's just so. All right. Show me that again, please. Okay. Is there any player-directed interaction or activity that you guys would like to take before you fall asleep?
Well, I did want to sort of make the rounds of the camp and just, say hi to people that I haven't met yet, be friendly to Stanton's men, just so that demarcation, so I'm not seen as part of it.
Right. Yeah.
These people here and these people here. Just want to make the rounds and probably give a refilled flask of my whiskey to Whiteman.
Okay.
Sort of a nice gesture for him.
Yeah, he's
taking Arbogast's advice. Then when I do, I'll just get his thoughts about what's going on, the trip so far, see what he has to say, about the trek up into the highlands so far. Make sure that he's like where he's camping, make sure he's got the stuff he needs.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I expect it's as good as it's going to get, Mr. Wentworth, but thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you'll pardon me, I don't believe I could string two thoughts together in a straight line at the moment, so you have a good night, sir.
Not at all. You too. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, so let's go to Mr. Stanton. After you go to sleep, of course, you have no awareness that you are asleep, but the first thing you notice is the sensation of incredible weight pressing down on you. Every physical movement that you make as you seemingly wake up somewhere is sluggish and heavy. Around you, you see stonework, floors, walls, and columns in a strange greenish-black stone. The structure's scale is not made for beings as small as humans, is like a sort of an odd thought that pops into your head when you're looking at like the archways and the width of the stairs. The lines and angles of the place twist and turn in on themselves so that the nearest column, which when you first look at it appears a dozen feet away, but as you stand up and, shuffle your feet, a fraction of an inch to your left or something, it appears suddenly closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lantern there, and shadows slither and crawl over everything, almost mocking your light. And you see Francesco there, sort of groggily blinking his eyes and looking around, and a fearful look come over his face. Go ahead and give me a power roll again. Nice.
Do power rolls go up like in the other Chaosium games?
If you succeed on an opposed power roll,
nice.
Or if you get a critical POW or a critical luck roll, then they'll go up. But you haven't made an opposed one quite yet.
I oppose this dream.
He's opposing the keeper. So you were in danger, as I described when Mr. Wentworth had been gifted his elder sign, like tracing the lines around it. You were in danger of some sort of hypnotic effect, you realized, just looking at the way a stairwell would run one way, but not come to an appropriate conclusion in your mind by how structures work, right? It was doing something odd, but you shook yourself out of it by some effort of willpower. But yeah, you're looking at a blinking and fearful Francesco who's like looking around suddenly. Mr. Stanton, where are we?
I'll reach for one of my guns.
Yeah, I'll say it's there.
Okay. Elephant rifle in a shoulder holster.
Right.
I don't know, boy. Stay close. Don't look at anything too far. Seems to be that the terrain has become twisted.
Yeah, you see him, casting fretful looks around the area, and there's, as well as the stairwells going up to different places, there's those arches that lead into smaller hallways, although huge by the standards of human. And you hear Francesco say, what is that? And that draws your attention to a dark figure, human-sized, kind of resembling those Yemeni goat herder women you saw back in Hodeidah.
Okay.
They stand at the entryway into the room you're in. Once you notice that one, you notice some at the other exits from this room, just sort of standing at the moment, but you do see their hands move to draw curved blades from their belts.
Looks like the fun's began, boy.
I'll unload a barrel there.
Okay, yeah.
Rifle, shotgun. Success. So this is my elephant rifle?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that. Or do they get to dodge or anything first? I forget.
I mean, they're not throwing themselves to the ground.
All right.
Ooh,
Well,
you should. That's
yeah,
not the roll
that's
yet.
the damage.
Look at that extreme damage, though. Holy crap. Dude, I think you might destroy a car with that.
Let me roll that again so we can get proper damage.
No, it has the regular. It has the 14 on there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're a practiced shot, obviously. Look at that skill.
Before I pull the trigger, I'll say, cover your ears, boy.
Yeah, I think you still have the hit location thing there, don't you?
Oh,
When you select your picture, I think it should pop up those macros.
finding back hit location. Left arm, as always.
Yeah, you can tell you hit. I mean, it resembles these Yemeni women, and you noticed in Hodeidah that people are just smaller in general, right? So the women were very slight. So this is a very slight figure who you hit in the left arm at the shoulder there, and she kind of blows away like Robert Rodriguez style, like down that hallway. Like that, it's not realistic to you, right? But you don't really, it doesn't take you out of the moment, right? You shot and killed, you think, something, and it goes like flying away down that hallway, like almost like it's pulled by a wire until it's out of sight, And
then I'll start moving a direction where there are either less of them or none of them.
Yeah, the closest one is one of those staircases that go up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And you pull Francesco after you. But your shot seemed to be like the shot at a race, and suddenly these other figures you saw there start moving in sort of a weird, almost dance-like walk at you. But it's very rapid, right? But yeah, you guys start making your way up there.
Can I imagine this elephant gun being belt-fed and automatic?
Well, I'm trying to stick to
what you know.
It'd be like what you might unconsciously think of it as, or from your subconscious. Yeah, but you definitely could try to direct your dream energy in that way if you'd like, with an extreme power roll. No.
Nah, Stanton just lives in the moment, and right now this moment is shooting native women apparently that have become feral.
Yeah, so you start booking it up these stairs, or maybe it's just a rapid but still measured walk up there with Francesco behind you. And as you're going up, you see the orientation of where they're at sort of change, where it kind of looks like now they're up on the wall heading towards this stairwell down that you had just come down, and it has sort of a dizzying effect, but you push through it with the matter at hand. And go ahead and give me a spot hidden as you come up to where this next level, this stair opens up on.
Success.
All right, so you see one of these Yemeni witch women lurking around the corner as you're coming up there, waiting to spring on you, which gives you the opportunity to fire at her if you wish, or do something else.
Yeah, I will. The thought for maybe next session or some session down the line, could I, per se, like, roll disadvantage to have the shot penetrate multiple, where it's like maybe the damage is divided up, but it's like through and throughs?
Like if they're lined up or something?
Yeah, so if there's like 3 potential in a line, I would get 2 disadvantage dice.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
All right.
Yeah.
So I got 1 coming at me.
Yes.
I will put the other round in her and then begin reloading. Hard success.
Nice. So yeah, again, it's like pulled by a wire, reacts to the blast from your elephant gun, and goes sailing off this way, like up, but she doesn't just go straight up. She follows some unknown gravitational curvature and sort of goes this way and then off down some portal, not like a glimmering portal, but I just mean an entryway in the stonework to disappear. And you hear the
I got enough for each one of you.
Right.
Toss shell casings. Did the shell casings do the same thing? Did they like get caught by some unknown gravity?
If you track them, they do follow a pattern that you can't even begin to create a pattern out of, right? They follow some path. All right, so all
I need now is a chainsaw in my hand.
So you're pulling Francesco down this hallway, and there's something about the darkness ahead that gives it it seems more solid, where it's almost like battling against the light from this lantern that you have, I suppose, on your belt now. And you hear the sound of some immense liquid bulk shift from the end of that hallway that you're traveling down. But behind you, the rest of the Yemeni women have crested the stairs, and we can come back around to your action. Now, in game terms, it's fine for you to say you begin reloading after that you're shot, but it actually happens on this one. Now, you can load a shot and fire it in the same round, just with a penalty, if you wish. Otherwise, you can take the full round to load both shots in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the choice comes, do you want to continue to move towards this sound that somehow gave in every inch of your being an alert, not good, danger, Mr. Stanton. This is not the way.
You trust your gut within the jungle, and I'd rather trust my life to a bunch of crazed goat herders than...
That said, I still might put a round into the darkness, which will fulfill a lifelong dream of shooting the darkness.
All right, so you reckon that you can get that gun loaded and fire again before they will have closed the distance in this hallway. So if you want to take that next shot, you may.
All right, yeah, I will take it at disadvantage, and I'll fire 2 rounds into the women. Penalty, submit, was it 2?
Yeah.
Extreme success! Is that rolled both, right? So that counts for both?
That's a good question.
Or would I have to roll it again at...
You do each shot independently with this elephant gun. Only the, like if you were doing the Vickers gun, would you have groups of how many rounds were in each group?
And a hard.
Nice.
Oh, this is what Stanton needed.
All right. So, and those were both at the penalty, right? For trying to do like a through and through, line them up.
I wasn't doing that. I was just shooting twice because I wanted you to think on that,
right?
If you wanted to, but I could do that if we could switch it and divide the 38 and the 16 up.
Either way, it has the intended effect. They just get blasted. You see that black fabric get like atomized, and then they go sailing off, and then it's quiet from the way they had been coming.
I'll start the reloading. That will finish on my next turn, but I'll
Francesco, there's something further down this hallway in the darkness. Keep your eyes open.
It's like, you don't have to tell me, Mr. Stanton. I can feel it.
Good. Means your instincts are working. Means you're alive, boy.
How do we get out of here?
I'll contemplate shooting him, just seeing if maybe that will work.
You do have to reload again.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Right. You like pause with one shell half in and out. I don't think this is real. Time to do some science.
Don't know. Only way out through these scenarios is through, boy. Just keep shooting.
So it has gone quiet as near as you can tell. You just have the one path which, according to your gut, leads to some dreadful outcome, or you have the way you had just fled down. So back down those stairs.
I'll, with my lantern held in one hand, I'll rest my gun on that arm.
Ready, Francesco?
And I'll start walking without waiting for him to answer.
Okay. In which direction?
Deeper into the darkness.
All right. So you head into the darkness, which I had mentioned seemed to fight against your light. And the further you go, you're left with maybe, a yard of your lantern light. But you do get the sense that the area you're going to is of an immense size. There's like an atmospheric change where suddenly you're not hearing echoes from nearby walls from your footfalls, but like the acoustics change, and now the sound given off by your boot when it takes its next step just seems to go, out.
Doesn't even echo.
Right.
So that means there's no, okay.
Yeah. So, but there is something in the darkness, a distance that does somehow catch the light from your lantern. And you know well enough by being a hunter, the way certain animals' eyes look at night when they catch the smallest amount of light. So you're pretty sure that's what it is. But it is an immense eye sort of rolling this way and that.
There you are.
But as it begins to open fully and seem to focus in your direction, that's when you wake up for the morning.
As its eye was opening,
Yeah.
my finger was also going
Getting
down to
ready
the
to pull the
triggers,
trigger,
and then I
yeah.
wake up,
Okay.
which is the worst case of like blue ball for Stan.
All right, so go ahead and give me a sanity roll.
Of course. 2850. Never better. Right as rain.
If this was pulp, you'd have to have some special feature where if you succeed at things that mess up your sanity, you gain sanity. But it seems to be working that way anyways. Let's see how Francesco did. Oh, why didn't you work? Oh, it did do it. Okay, sorry. Just didn't see it the first time. All right, so yeah, he's a little shaken, but yeah, as though from a normal nightmare. Same as you, although I find nightmares don't really shake me anymore like they used to. So it's just like, oh, that was weird. But that was kind of cool. What happened there is kind of how I think about it. So as an adult, you're not quite as taken with what had occurred.
Well, I've also tried to put it into words and talk to you about like Stanton's view.
Right.
So he probably thinks that there is something to dreams. He's heading towards something is probably how he's going to think about it. But as far as he's concerned, he was winning in that dream.
Right.
So.
Everything was going well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a single point of sanity lost.
All right.
And easily shaken as you see the sun cresting the eastern mountains.
Does that count towards an encounter?
Yes,
All
but you'll have to put question marks there for now.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I figured, where is that? Is it possessions? Backstory?
Yeah, it's in the backstory. What I would do is unusual dreams.
And the fat slug and inhabited men, the Karisuri, are erased now?
Yeah, you every investigator development phase, you lose that inoculation to insanity. It goes down by 1, I should say. So
no, I just erased it. I
might have erased it too.
I don't think I had a number there anyway. All right, so strange dream / question marks, and then whatever it is from there.
All right.
Was it 1?
Yes, just 1 point.
So yeah, over the morning coffee, I'll be looking at the map.
All right, so here's where you guys had stopped at the pin marked February 25th. On your way to Sana'a, you reckon, Mr. Stanton, that you have another day in the trucks and then, well, mostly another 2 days, but you'll arrive likely on the 27th to Sana'a. So the day dawns hotter than yesterday. There's a thermostat somewhere in the belongings that tells you by the high point of the day you've reached into the 80s. But you guys continue on with the trucks. And one of the things you've experienced this quite a bit in Morocco is that when you're traveling with Muslims, they stop, truck driver or whatever they are, they still stop to do their prayers throughout the day. So that occurs. You're well adjusted to it. There's a couple of times, Mr. Wentworth, where you hear Mr. Whiteman, Bo Whiteman grumbling about like, well, why are we stopping? Let's get there already, right? Like, just for the truck drivers to get out, lay down their mats. And at this stage, they face almost straight north to give their prayer. Although you do notice that Barham Ibn Salah prays about as many times, but he's facing a different directions to the kind of northeast in a way is where he offers his prayers. But it's a curiosity because you're neither a Muslim or a Coptic Christian or even maybe a regular Christian to that high of a degree. So this is just something you get used to seeing people doing their ceremonies. It's during one of those stops to pray that, these last a few minutes. So some of you guys don't even bother to get down out of the trucks. You let the truck drivers go do their thing and get back. But then you hear one of them cry out and he's running like up to the trucks holding his leg, right? Like down by his calf, speaking Arabic. You can, since you understand that, you hear him saying, I was bit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll run over and see what's going on.
Yeah. So you can see, because he's favoring that part on his calf, that he was snake bit.
Okay.
What is it in this section? Cobras?
Yeah. You got a few different varieties. You can give me a spot hidden. I guess both of you might both be drawn to what's happening.
I don't see a snake.
Yeah, old Eagle Eye Stanton, you catch the cobra slithering away from one of the mats where it was laid down on the side of the road. Natural world, or first aid or medicine would answer the expected fate of this gentleman.
Yeah, looks like first aid's actually better than my natural world.
You did notice that all of the Yemeni truck drivers were wearing red shirts.
Mm-hmm.
He's as good as dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, you guys have some outdated ways of you might treat this, whether it's
Trying to actually suck the poison
suck
out.
the poison or the venom, or even
venom.
amputation. But without serum, Stanton, there's really not much that's going to be done for him. He either makes it through it or he doesn't. And Cobra's is usually not make it through it sort of snake bite.
I say we just put him out of his misery. It'll be better for him. Unfortunately, out here we can't spare the manpower to send him back to his family. Or he can die screaming, Wentworth.
Well, yeah, so we can't... I mean, how long does it take?
About 30 minutes before the first symptoms kick in.
Okay. I mean, I guess we just...
We could waste medical supplies making him comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, let's make him as comfortable as we can.
I'll put the safety back on my Enfield. What's the doctor's name? I can almost remember it. Siri.
Dr. Sala.
Sala.
Sala, make the man comfortable, if you would, please.
Oh, he was close to making it.
So, what I'll do is I'll just stay with him and I'll speak with him,
Yeah.
until he dies.
Yeah, you've, most of you war experienced or doing expeditions, you've seen the Walking Dead stage in a lot of men where they've taken some sort of wound or something is about to happen where, and it never fails to be that even though this is a possibility, it could happen to you, that when it does, there's like it, when you talk with him, he knows, right? He knows it's a death sentence, but he's like pleading with you to do something about it. And Dr. Sala, who Stanton has also ordered to go over there and help you with him, he's like, well, there's nothing that can be done, not without serum,
Mm-hmm.
The blood, it takes a minute to fully circulate throughout the body, it's...
I'm just used to Dr. Andrews, whose bag only had morphine
Here you go,
and cocaine.
He does have that. I mean, that is an option.
That's what I'm...
You could morphine him out.
Yeah, that's what I was telling him to do, is just make him comfortable, let him die.
Yeah, we'll do that and I'll get like his, final words if he's got any last wishes. And then I'll get a couple men to go dig a hole.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go over there as well, because while Stanton is a cold individual, he also understands that you don't want to appear cold to when one of your average working men die, because it starts having a downhill
effect. Yeah.
So I'll ask if he smokes or if he wants anything particular before he goes to God.
He will take it, but it's almost like a thoughtless, nervous action to accept the gift from you in a way, and he still denies any sort of drink or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, then I.
But he will take your cigar.
Okay.
You light it up for him, but he's shaken, got the nerves. The other truck drivers, have that curious mix of relief and horror at watching the thing occur, as do most,
It didn't happen to me, but it's still happening,
And Mr. Whiteman is kind of perplexed that he's just going to die? That's it? I mean...
Yeah, we got the snakes
we don't
over
have
here.
any serum?
We don't have any.
If you want, you can try to suck the poison out.
It's hard to come
Oh,
by.
I know that don't work, but something you maybe ought to thought of when you put this together?
This is...
I mean, you did know there was going to be snakes there, right? Here, right?
How many snakes? I know how many snakes there are, right? Are there just a long list?
Yeah, I mean, there's non-venomous varieties too, right? Yeah. You wouldn't say it's any worse than places that have venomous snakes. It's just part of the...
Yeah.
It's a...
Well,
here.
This is Whiteman.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Whiteman, the width and breadth of the venomous snakes in these lands, I don't want to take up a camel.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Well, also, how they make those serums, and they're specific to the species of snake, so you can't just buy it back in Cairo and it'll work here. So you had figured that out in your planning stage of the journey. So if they were to be obtained, the only chance would be in Sana'a, and that's if they're doing that there, which they might not be, you know?
Okay. So, Mr. Bowman, what type of snake was it that bit the poor man? Could you tell me?
I didn't see it.
Oh, well, then
what it matters. You put the serum in him, and
then it wouldn't matter, because it's by the particular type.
Well,
you're as implicated in this matter as any of us. You killed the man without your sharp eye.
I most certainly did not. I'm drawing your attention to a problem that you need to rectify.
I'm drawing your attention to the problem that you just...
Yeah, so I'll kind of interrupt this, and I'll say, Mr. Whiteman, the landscape around here is not too dissimilar from where you're from. I sent a couple of men to go dig a grave. Can you go oversee that for us and make sure they dig it deep enough?
Fine, I will do that, Mr. Wentworth, but I suggest you get your dog under control while I do that.
I suggest you make the grave big enough for two.
There's been enough tragedy for one day, gentlemen.
Yeah, so he does go off and do that red-faced, though. And,
I'll be judging distance from here.
Oh, it would be an easy shot at this stage. But it does diffuse it, you know, and you and Mr. Arbogast share a look of significance there when you sweep your eyes across the rest of the men there. But yeah, you dig that grave, and what occurs is the first symptoms are these nervous twitches, which then go into full-on convulsions, and ultimately he ends up, you know, asphyxiating because his lungs stop working. So the only very difficult part to watch is the convulsions, because they're quite violent at first. But as most of you are inoculated to that sort of thing,
well,
you just watch it.
I'm immune to most poisons on God's green earth because I allow them to bite me a little bit. And I've built up quite the immunity. Drink it with my coffee.
But, you know, some of your members can hardly watch. You know, Curtis Cooper is, you know, he goes off a ways and sits down with his head in his hands, you know. Basically, the death does some small sanity damage to various members of your party, since they're not so used to this unexpected death or the violence. But the truck driver dies as well as he could, and you, Brandon, learn that his name was Naef. He was a tanner's son, and that's about as much. There wasn't much more to his story than that, other than that he didn't like tanning. Yeah, that's why he drove trucks to and from Sana'a.
His name was Naef?
Yeah, Nayef. All right, so this truck driver, whose name I already forget, Naef, is buried, and a prayer is said by those who pray. In this case, it's his fellow Yemeni truck drivers, and Dr. Sala offers up his own prayer, and then the trucks must continue on. For this stretch, although Mr. Stedford had been riding in a truck, he asks if he might ride with you for this bit of for the next stretch. I had something I wanted to talk with you about.
Yes, that would be no problem at all. I'll appreciate the conversation over the deafening roar of the engine and bouncing,
yeah, you guys
squeaking.
have to shout at each other the whole way, but it's but yeah, he wants to discuss our arrival in Sana'a, and I know we had talked about what we might offer, how we might pay back sheesh to a king, but it's still something that really concerns me. And I think the last you had spoken to Dr. Andrews is that he would find out if he could, but the only place you might be able to get his response is in Sana'a, so that's what he's planned for, is trying to send a telegram there with any information he has. So you'll have to look for it when you arrive there. But, so we should be approaching Sana'a day after tomorrow, I think, or tomorrow, I suppose. Have you gotten any more assurances from your benefactor about that?
No, just that he was going to see what he could do and get a message to me in Sana'a. So when we get there, hopefully he's come up with something.
Well, I wish I could offer more insight. It was the Ottomans that I had to deal with, and not the Zaidi tribesmen as kings now.
Mm-hmm.
But I expect, like most things, you'll have an audience with him, and you'll have to choose who you take with you, because I doubt very much he will let the whole expedition into the palace.
That's very true.
So I'm sure many of your companions would offer their own pros and cons, as it were. But have you thought about that much? When the time comes, you must go before this king. Which of your companions you shall take?
I have given no thought to that. How many do you usually take with you on something like this? I've never met a king.
Yeah. Well, I don't expect he'll be the king we are both thinking of in our minds. He's a religious leader first to the Zaidis, and then a king second, I would suppose. So I don't.
So a bit like a fiery Southern Baptist preacher.
Well,
who also owns a 1,000-acre ranch.
Perhaps, but I don't know how pious of a man he is. They might forego the trappings of, say, a sultan elsewhere, but in the times that I've met others, they usually keep the party small, a man, the important man and his attendants.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe another man or two other men you might be able to take in there with you.
Well, would you be willing to go with me?
Well, I have some caution of bringing any British person in there with you.
Oh, right.
I expect the signs of conflict we passed earlier were recent and with, British interests.
Yeah, you make a good point.
But I don't know if, these Arabs can be quite strange in their viewpoints on enemies. They fight you yesterday and they'll be your friend tomorrow, or they're your friend today and they fight you tomorrow. I have not been able to make much sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. He might not hold it against us, but I don't know who would do well to help you. You know your companions better than I.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are suitable.
Mm-hmm.
Besides maybe Thompson. He's got the slick tongue, I bet he could just talk a cow right out of her calf.
Give you all the camels you need and convert them to Christianity at the same time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Who else?
I don't know. Stanton's too prickly. And Whiteman is too arrogant. But there's that doctor. He's from...
Sala?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could work. Familiar face.
He might lend some prestige.
Yeah, that could do it. I would agree to that. I can't think of a better man in his place. What about the other two? Dr. Morgan, I believe, and the jug-eared kid. His name, Cooper.
Cooper? Well, I suppose, because they couldn't do damage, they might lend some prestige. Dr. Morgan and they're both from Miskatonic University, and maybe that could be, the fact that a university wants to study here might butter them up a bit, make them feel important.
Yeah, I've found that most cultures...
They're both, but Cooper, maybe he could do some flattering writing in his paper about this king and get his name out to the wider world.
That is a thought. That is likely what he's seeking. The justification of his rule, the recognition of it. So some publication...
Yeah, and I bet Jackson and Cooper would be good for that, since they're both journalists. I mean, Jackson's, relatively widely read. What do you think about that?
I think either man would do. Perhaps the younger man might seem less threatening to the king. I think your instincts about Thompson are correct. He seems to have a natural way with most men that I've seen him interact with, that regardless of who they are or what they think or believe in.
We're going to have to pause for a second. I got to go check on Piper. She's going to cry her soul out.
Battened by a snake, not bitten.
Isn't that the past perfect of bitten? Batten.
Apparently it's like batten the hatches,
right,
according to the dictionary.
Man, I really dislike how many tools they have with spell correcting and grammar correcting these days. Just leaves all these blue and red lines on my documents that.
Yeah, the blue ones I dislike.
Yeah.
Because I am obviously speaking in an antiquated way. Stop trying to, contract everything.
Well, it'd be cool if you had, like, a personality for if they had some sort of tone ability. But I still wouldn't like to use it. But they're all trying to make your emails more coherent, and that's not what we're writing, just emails. Because they try to make you reduce your word usage to the, which I guess is sort of a principle. Piper, say hi.
Why you going to bite me? Don't bite me. I'm your friend.
Okay, go on. Okay, sorry about that.
Yes, and the other thing is this is where we will have to purchase camels for the journey ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing a rough head count here, I think we will need a significant amount of them.
Yes.
I don't think it'll be a problem, but it might take some time. Your Mr. Stanton will know best. He seems capable.
Yeah, that's my read on him. He's a man who knows what he's doing.
So, from that point, the conversation as the trucks wind up further and further into the highlands, turn to little odds and ends he can give you about, like the cultural expectations you might have. When you go to buy something, they'll invite you to coffee and tea and perhaps even have a meal with you. And sometimes the whole haggling and purchase thing can take, it's like you're visiting with a friend basically, because they have customs of courtesy, which they adhere to a fairly high degree. It'll make you think the British are downright rude, which we are, of course, but
okay.
And it's a little bit more of an insular, even when the Ottomans were here, area, and will be quite the occasion for the people here. And don't be alarmed if they, very forwardly just want to gaze upon the Christians as they come through,
I see.
Probably been many, many, many years, if ever, that they've seen a European for some of the people there. So yeah, he kind of lays out a few, tips for that, like the proper greeting for a king,
Yeah.
in this case, that sort of thing. You already kind of knew the Arabic, hello type thing, right?
Right.
That they all say to each other, and farewell, which is kind of the same thing, right? But all those little things he's just brushing you up on.
Yeah.
And lost my place here. Okay, so you guys continue on. You break for lunch, and by nightfall, you've just had to pull off to the side of the road. There's no real flat spot there here, but they do have kind of like a turnout, sort of, with a pretty wide spot, wide enough for Stanton's men to set up for camp, get the mess area going, and have dinner cooked. So, but it's while you guys are set up for camp and preparing to eat that you see an old Yemeni man coming down the road there. He's bent, and you'd think he probably weighs like 120 pounds, small and slight. And but he's curious about you guys, your whole group, the number of Europeans amongst you. So he stops, and just as Mr. Stedford had mentioned, very forwardly comes and looks at each of you, particularly the white people. He's even curious to a lesser degree about, say, Ibrahim and Jackson Elias.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see he's got an instrument slung over his shoulder. It's called an oud. It's sort of like a lute, precursor guitar instrument. If you guys get a moment later on, you should listen to some of the music. But this is what, if you were doing a soundtrack for a movie that was set in the Middle East, this is the instrument that is the basis for the sound that comes along with that, And go ahead and make a appearance roll for me, Mr. Wentworth and Mr. Stanton.
Appearance.
Hard success.
No.
So he decides that you must be the man to talk to, and he offers to play for your party in return for food.
Oh, okay.
He only speaks Arabic, though, so it's good that he chose you because you understand.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. We'll take some entertainment in exchange for some beans or whatever.
It's good enough time, too, because we're probably going to do a small restock in Santa Ana.
Right.
So
yeah, he starts plucking at that oud, which it's a pretty mournful sort of song that he plays. But there's a lot of, you can see as he plays, for those amongst you who do play instruments. So in this case, like Curtis Cooper would understand that there's he's not really playing a structured song. It's like jazz in a way where, he's just sort of fiddling around here. But he plays for like well into the night, and he is a competent player. Now, I had meant to ask you, Mr. Wentworth, do you wear that elder sign that was given to you in Constantinople?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he notices it when he's done playing and everybody's being dished out food, and he's sitting next to you, and his eyes, which are the eyes of the elderly where they're sunken, but they also convey, in a sense, their age, because they're like infinite pools that sort of burn with an odd glimmer in the firelight. But he points to it with sort of a questioning look, ask you where you came by that.
Yeah, I'll tell him that a local in whatever
was
that
it
town
Cairo
was.
or was it before?
Yeah, it was in Constantinople.
Constantinople, right?
Yeah.
Had given it to me, and I take it as
keyboard.
a sort of a good luck charm.
Yeah, he says, well, God has also brought you to me, and he fishes in his cloak, like his clothes, right? And he pulls out what's called a jambia knife. And this is sort of the classic, short, curved bladed knife you'd kind of see. But it has like an ivory handle, but it's in a simple, humble wooden sheath, right? But etched on the sheath is the elder sign.
Oh, okay.
And he says, a gift for your hospitality. And he's handing it to you.
Well, yeah, sure. I'll take it from him. This is too princely a gift. Let me pay for it.
He just wordlessly waves his hands.
So you know something about this sign then?
No, but I recognized it because I had this knife.
Where did you get that knife?
Was the knife given? It was my father's knife, basically.
Oh, so
He
it's
never-
like a passed down.
Never said anything about it. Yeah. Well, part of your instruction by Stedford was about these jambia knives, which, like all the men carry, basically, and they do say something about the social strata of the person, like it's sort of, but not like you're forced to have a certain knife. It's like you're kind of choosing what is being displayed on the hilt and the sheath, right? So, yeah, he said it was a humble. My father, I don't know. He said it was his father's, so my grandfather's, and who knows how far back that goes. But we always had this humble wooden sheath just to indicate who we were, because we were cobblers, that sort of thing. But yeah, he says, I have no idea what it means, but it's curious to find it here again for such an odd symbol. And since God brought you to me, he must know, must be in his wisdom.
Well, you sure you won't let me pay for it?
I have no son to pass it on to, and I couldn't accept any money.
Well,
when you bear it a little bit, you see it's Damascus still, so you have those, the odd patterns on it. Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you. This is a wonderful gift.
Yeah, he makes no big motions about it. He just inclines his head, eats his food, and goes back to playing until he judges that people are like ready to turn in, and then he himself does. Before you do, you see the all too familiar lightning that is not lightning flashing in the south. That would be artillery fire.
Yeah.
You hear the low rumble. This, when you look over, you see Thompson reacting to it. He's probably not even aware that he kind of clinches when you hear some of the louder blasts, but he has that phobia for loud sounds.
What are the chances one of my men can play an instrument and joins in, or at least tries to?
Certainly, Flanagan must.
That's what I'm figuring. He's probably got a tin whistle or
how would his style mix in with a traditional Arabic
well, I figure
flute playing?
Like they're both kind of like probably by ear
Yeah.
type players. I figure he could probably try to mimic pretty well.
Yeah, you have a couple of men in your group that are, well, I think, being able to play an instrument was much more common by my read in the past, even if it was as simple as being the tambourine man, right?
Yeah, or just knowing one chord and playing it differently, yeah.
So yeah, that does occur, and he seems gracious to accept the new voice into the song that they're creating. But there's not a certainty to the music that's being played. They're all filling each other out and trying to come up with something. But yeah, so, and that's punctuated in the background by distant artillery fire.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then at some point, once again, Dr. Sala sets up his telescope and gazes at the northeastern night sky. We'll say in this case, Mr. Wentworth, you notice that he becomes very excited about whatever he's seeing through there and starts scribbling, in a little journal that he's got.
Well, now I'll go over and talk to him about it. What are you always looking up at, Doctor?
Well, I'm an astronomer, just a hobbyist, really.
Well, what's got you so excited tonight? You see the Big Dipper?
No, a comet. Would you care to take a look?
Yeah, I'll give it a peek.
Yeah, so, it's not a powerful telescope, but he kind of points it out to the naked eye where it just looks like a star because it's so distant, one of the many stars in the night sky. But he says, yes, can you find this constellation? We'll say the Big Dipper.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in this direction to it, you should see it, And after a bit of, fumbling with the telescope, you do manage to get onto the comet, which was just a twinkling light to the naked eye, but jumps closer and you can make out the tail and the shape of it. And it's mostly, just white in appearance, except for a greenish hue along the tail of the comet.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like, I'm just making note of it. I don't know if it's been discovered yet. Unlikely, but...
Well, I can see why you're so excited. That's pretty neat.
Well, now that you're kind of up here and away from light pollution, now this is less of a phenomenon to your characters, but it would be more of a phenomenon to us, is just how the night sky looks, right?
Yeah.
So you combine that with a telescope and very little ambient light, and it's, you get kind of the sensation you could tumble off of the earth and into this void,
right? If
you weren't careful, if you keep both feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And you even get that a little bit, when the fires die down, when you wake up intermittently at night and you just look at this, basically the windshield of the earth as it flies through space. But he'll be happy to point out other things of interest, like Saturn's visible over here. And his telescope's powerful enough you can see the rings around it, that sort of thing, And I don't know if Mr. Wentworth had done much in the way of stargazing.
Nope.
But you can see his fascination with it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to think that in the modern era, lack of light pollution could be a sand check.
Right. Very well. It is crazy just when I go camping sometimes, but that's not even the full experience, I think, from what undeveloped areas we get. But yeah, he spends a lot of time pointing out various things, and he asks, are you a Christian, Mr. Wentworth?
Nominally. I mean, I don't practice.
I understand.
I grew up that way.
Well, I am, and, my family believes that Jesus would return again, and we were to keep our eyes to the east for his return, for signs and symbols. What those would be, I don't know, and I don't even know if I fully believe. It's more of a inherited tradition, but every time I find a comet or something I've not seen before in the night sky, I wonder if my father was right about all that.
Jesus is going to come on a comet?
I mean, couldn't he?
I suppose.
I don't know if that's what they were saying.
I've heard all the stories. That makes as much sense to me as any other. So
I've always took it to mean, well, we can gauge times and distances and our place in the world by the stars. And I think I always took it to mean as more of like the time has come around again if certain things are to line up again. That was what we were instructed to look for. But, my father spoke of, have you ever heard of like rogue planets?
No.
Well, we have our standard planets that orbit the sun, but it's been theorized that there are planets that...
Sorry.
There are planets that have such odd orbits that they may not appear in the night sky or, for thousands of years. Because for most of their journey through, our solar system, they're too far distant to see. So my father always told me to keep a lookout for things of those nature, that might be the symbol, something from his time. And you hear the capitalized H in there to refer to Jesus would return again to signal. But I never fear, Mr. Wentworth. I'm not trying to proselytize you here. This is just what I've been taught. I'm a doctor first and foremost. You can give me a psychology roll.
He is, in fact, not a doctor. Almost. Luck it.
Yeah, I'll use the luck.
Okay. Now, anybody who is very into a particular subject, when they begin to speak about it, can seem kind of insane. It's that fever about it that their listener doesn't possess.
Yeah.
And so you have that, but you kind of feel there's like a layer beyond that. Like maybe his assurance to play off this belief that was passed down in his family is something well practiced, because he's come to recognize the looks he gets from people, and that you think there might be a core of actual belief about this sign of Jesus returning, right?
Right.
Because according to their tradition, he would come from the east, and east of Cairo, the Coptic Christians was, across the Red Sea, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyhow, you detect this. He's trying to conceal his belief, and that when certain things align in the night sky, they'll communicate that to him.
Yeah.
But, it does cast your mind back to those paintings you saw in the basement in Constantinople. So there's a parallel there with
right.
the stars, written or drawn on those paintings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I can see that he holds some very strong beliefs here, but that he's a little wary about sharing,
Right.
which I can respect.
Yeah, there's even though he's well put together, like buttoned up, nice clothes, that sort of thing, keeps his hair from being a mess, he still manages to give you an air of like ragged around the edges, but it's in his psychology, the little laughs that come out, unbidden by things that aren't necessarily funny, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like he's marching to his own beat a little bit.
Right. Okay. So by the end of that day, you have, let's see here, on the map, say, gotten to about here. And it's now time for a whole new day, or to rest and start a whole new day. Which again, dawn's sunny and clear. Most of the clouds you see are sparse and usually burnt off by noon, so you just have this brilliant blue, perfect sky for most of the day. It cools off a little bit today as you climb higher and higher, and by lunch, when you take your break, you've taken it near like a ruined stone house. Who knows how old it is, but it piques Curtis Cooper's curiosity as a photo opportunity. So he comes to you, Mr. Wentworth, and wonders if you might get some of the guys together who want to pose for this. I think it'd be good for the report,
That's a good idea. Yeah. So I'll go around to, I'll just bring it up to people. Say that Mr. Cooper wants to get a photograph of this momentous occasion if you want to join us. But I'll offer Stanton and, whoever he wants to bring from his group, and Whiteman and all the people that I brought with me.
Always a good opportunity for publicity.
Right.
Yeah, Stanton will agree. He'll pick out the men, not like a couple of them. He doesn't want to fill up the picture with his men, but that are fairly striking. I'm going to figure Double Bandolero Vincent will be among them. Maybe Flanagan, because we know
Right.
who he is.
Yeah, so...
and his support for the machine gun.
It takes, quite a bit of Curtis Cooper getting people to stand in different places, because you end up having to have, like 2 rows to fit in frame, and those in front have to kneel down, basically, so the ones behind can be seen. But he's trying to get people situated just so he can, because he pulls out his bigger camera that he has to put on a stand, and it takes quite a while to get it set up, but not to where your normal break in travel has to run any longer. But he takes a few shots of you guys all situated there, and when he's breaking everything down, he catches your attention, Mr. Stanton, and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Stanton, you think it'd be a good time on this next stretch if I get that interview from you for the story?" If you feel inclined to, I have plenty of people I can talk to, so I don't want to put any pressure on you.
Very well. We could do it on the ride.
Okay.
Or on the road.
So yeah, there's some shuffling around to make room for him, and you guys gather in the trucks and rumble off again, and he's got, a notebook there with a pen, and he's like, "All right, so Mr. Charles Stanton, that's the name, right?"
That's what I was born with, yes.
And how old are you, sir? Pardon me asking.
To the best of my knowledge, 50.
Might have lost a year or two there in the Congo.
During the Zulu uprising.
You own Stanton Expeditions, is that right?
Yes, indeed I do.
And so what, just maybe your top 2 expeditions would you say for our readers might find interesting that you'd want them to hear about? We'll start with number 1. What's the most interesting expedition you went on? You can, of course, hand wave it, and if you don't have a specific idea.
Yeah, I'll kind of hand wave it, but I'll go. I won't name names. It will be the first expedition that Mr. Merriweather originally hired me for when I was over in India.
Okay.
And it was some forgotten temple,
right,
in the southern part of India, towards like the jungles. I think that's right. Don't quote me if I'm. But
getting some Sanskrit scrolls or something there.
Something
for his purposes.
And he had enticed me with hunting a more dangerous game, because that's what I was doing at the time. Was I was the hunting guide for one of the locals that was in the East India Trading Company, and Merriweather enticed me with the idea of hunting a more dangerous game, and I thought he was referring to the people that were there, only to discover when we found the temple that there was something else.
Right. So have you traveled on every continent then, Mr. Stanton?
Give or take, yes. Anywhere there's a dangerous enough game to warrant a guide, I've hunted it, I've killed it, and it's currently hanging up in my office.
So from your point of view, what do you make of our current expedition?
Good as chance as any. Succeeding. We have all the men necessary, all the equipment, the food. The only question left unanswered is, do we have the will?
And in your expert opinion, how does one develop the will to continue against all odds?
You don't develop it. You're born with it, or it's put into you by your surroundings. The men that were in the trenches, they found it. They were either born with it or they found it. And we'll do the same, day 3 or 4 out in that desert.
This notion of either being or having it or not troubles Cooper. He's earnest, which makes him generally likable to most people, but he is naive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, so what happens to those who don't find it on something like this?
It's not an immediate death sentence. You could survive, but you'll do so at the detriment to the men around you. You'll lean on them too hard. You'll hesitate too often and too long. And that is the long and short of it. Not having it doesn't mean you'll die in a gutter somewhere. It just means that you won't be one of the men who will rise up. And I'm not specifically talking about you, just in general.
Well, that is why people hire you, Mr. Stanton, for your expertise. So you've probably helped a lot of people who don't have it get to where they're going or to what they want to see.
Yes, at Stanton Expedition, I like to think that I have enough will to see you to your destination, whether you want it or not.
Yeah, so he continues on with, what do you think about your companions getting along with everybody so far?
It's not my job to get along with any of them. It's my job to see them as safely as I can to their destination. That is the best I can answer that question.
Certainly makes it easier if the company's good.
Not really.
No.
All it does is make it harder when the bodies begin to drop.
I hadn't thought of that. All right. Yeah, so he asks you like the lifestyle section type questions, some personal ones that you may or may not feel comfortable
You can go for it.
answering, like, are you married?
Yes, happily so. Going on 30 years.
And kids?
3 beautiful children. Well, they're adults now. My eldest is 20-ish, 25, I don't know.
And what do they do? Follow in their father's footsteps?
I'd like to think so. Except for my youngest. She will have to make do with a proper education. And being on the road out in the wilderness is no life for a lady.
And where do you call home?
Morocco, Africa.
Any particular reason you chose there?
Beautiful, beautiful place. Just enough civility to let you lay your head down and not have to worry about not waking up, but still have that freedom to tell someone to just get out, get away. That, and it's has an excellent port bordered by water, allows for ship access as well as seaplane.
Now, the audience that Mr. Wentworth is allowing me to write for, I don't know if you have heard of our little group, the Society for the Exploration of the Unexplained. But
I've heard of you.
Any take on the unexplained, Mr. Stanton? Have you seen much in your travels to say open your mind to wider possibilities? We have articles and lectures on anything from ghosts to visitors from distant planets to you name it. Is there anything that might confirm those phenomena to my readers?
Absolutely. The world is full of mysterious and unfound things that lurk in the darkness of the deepest jungles or the unfound caverns beneath the earth. As far as my experience, there are many, too much for your little article. But the Peruvian vampires would be the most recent in a long list.
Hey, I did read that the reports that Mr. Monroe and Mr. Whitmire had given.
Whitmire and Monroe. Don't get me started on them. When it comes to monsters in this world, Whitmire and Monroe are the top of my list. Useless humans. Anyway,
So you had a good expedition with them then, based off your previous answers.
As well as could be expected. They found it out there, whatever it is. Monroe for sure. Whitmire remains useless.
It was kind of presented by Mr. Monroe as a yet unidentified species from the Amazon basin, these larvae that infected people.
Very well could be, but I don't take much stock in the natural or the supernatural. It just is. And what I saw defies normal human expectation.
And what, if you don't mind my asking, happened in that pyramid? I was left kind of vague what was seen there.
Well, there wasn't too much, unfortunately. I think it was the most boring part of the expedition. It was mainly a letdown, the actual venturing into the pyramid. We found handfuls of gold and jewels. The academics found murals and wall paintings.
But no imprisoned gods, as Mr. Monroe had claimed?
I'm not saying no to that, but for the most part, a bunch of oozing fat out of the side of a wall doesn't necessarily point to some sort of divinity or godhood to me.
What would be the explanation for such a phenomenon, do you think?
I think Mr. Monroe had it right. It was it was a group of unidentified, unknown, there as of then, parasitic leeches of some sort that like to carve their home out in humans. We set a bunch of dynamite and blew it all sky high as far as I'm... He's like, no, didn't we just seal it? Because we had like a mechanical roll or something, I forget.
Yeah, you hammered the missing section back into, there was like a golden ward around the outside of it. And I think you did seal the
entrances.
The entrances, right, yeah.
We should have blown the whole thing sky high, but all we did was hammer in some missing pieces, sealing up the crevice that the fat was leaking from, and then we dynamited the entrances into the pyramid proper. Relatively boring.
Well, before you know it, the sun begins its journey to setting, which means you're nearly to Sana'a. So it casts all the land in a purple hue just as you arrive to the outskirts, where you see, much more farms and people on the road walking home, you would think. But in the distance, you see the city's massive walls that completely encircle it. These are like medieval walls, right? Numerous adobe tower houses with white plaster around the windows, and the crenellations poke above the wall and lights twinkle everywhere. While Cairo is resplendent with details that illustrate the splendor of its ancient history, Sana'a whispers a much more understated tale of antiquity that is no less effective at communicating the city's great age. Speaking Arabic, that Sana'a means well fortified. So from your approach, you come to the western gate, which you see is closed for the night. I'll give you an image. It was hard to find images from this time period, but I have a small one, so don't even if you click to expand it, it won't get much bigger than that, of what that gate looks like. So it's a very functional and thick stone wall with a smallish gate, enough to, allow a cart or carriage to pass one way or the other, but not, going opposite ways at the same time. But as I said, it appears to be closed, and you see two guards on the top of the wall with Mausers resting on their shoulders, and they call out in Arabic, informing you that the city is closed until morning. Now, there's plenty of wide areas out here before the city, because Sana'a itself, for the last 2 hours, you've been riding in a flat land on the top of these mountains.
Yeah.
Although you do see higher mountains bordering the city to the east and the west, but you're in a big flat patch of land that is remarkably green and well cultivated. You think they're just at the right area for the rains that come off the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea to terminate here, and give enough water frequently to make this a good place to live. And its elevation keeps the heat at bay. So by this point, it can get quite cold at night.
Yeah.
And it's very tolerable during the day. But yeah, so you are closed to the city for the night.
Okay. Yeah, we'll set up camp here and wait until the morning.
Okay. All right. So once again at camp, Bo Whiteman comes up to you, Mr. Wentworth, voicing his concerns about Mr. Stanton. Mr. Wentworth, I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but are you certain you made the correct choice with Mr. Stanton? When a man speaks about obligation and duty, it's a sure bet that you'll get sold down the river at a later date. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. I've met uncountable numbers of men like him, and you should keep an eye on him.
In the background.
Well, that is very good advice, and I, just between you and me, I fully intend to keep an eye on him.
Well, I mean, you didn't really hire a man like that, right?
I did.
Came highly recommended.
He came highly recommended from a man whose word I trust implicitly. And I'll just say this, Mr. Whiteman, that right now we're, traveling through occupied lands with roads, and, a man like Stanton doesn't seem as much of a utility in a place like that. But where we're going, that's where a man's talents will present themselves. And of that, I've been assured by someone who I trust implicitly that Stanton is the man for it. So,
well, I'll not presume to tell you your business any further.
Well, I appreciate you bringing your concerns to me, but you're right. Everybody ought to have an eye kept on him, and so I will. But right now, things are easy. When it really gets hard, that's when I think we're going to benefit from Stanton.
Well, what can you tell me about this city? What was it called again?
Sana'a.
What can we expect here?
Well, here we can expect that we'll probably be drawn to an audience with their king.
Okay, carry on.
And we'll have to get the cooperation of this king if we're to travel on. And I'm a little concerned about that meeting, to be honest. I've never met a king before. I did have some messages out with some people back in the States, trying to get some information or some resources that might be useful for meeting a king like this. So we'll see if I've got a message waiting for me in there. Otherwise, we're just going to have to meet with him and convince him to not hinder us on our way.
You see a glimmer in his eyes, the spark of potential opportunity when you mention this king. He's like, now, Mr. Wentworth, I don't think I have to tell you that there might be an opportunity here with this king to, if we do find oil where we're going, to pave the way of securing it back.
Well, that's very true.
You know, what are the chances I can have a sit down with this fella?
Well, that had not occurred to me. I suppose I'm a little too cynical. And I had thought if we went to the man and brought up oil, he might say, why would I negotiate with you for what I already own?
That's a fair point, but does a man really own something if he can't get to it? That's the question.
That's very true.
Standard Oil would be happy to supply money, or if it's a matter of money, they have plenty of it.
Okay, well, you've talked me into it, Mr. Whiteman, but I think money's always important. But for this man, though I haven't met him, I think for this man, what's likely to be most important is that we view him as important as he views himself, if you take my meaning.
Oh, sure. I know men like that. Not realizing. It's like, all right, well.
And like it or not, he's in charge around here. And if we make enemies of him, we're likely not to leave alive. So if you keep that in mind, then yes, I appreciate your help in these negotiations.
Well, happy to offer my services. So if it comes up, I'd be happy to come along. So we'll end it here shortly so we can give Thompson the opportunity to shine by going before a king. But in the morning, the gate to Sana'a cast open, and its 25,000 or so inhabitants begin the day's business. Merchants begin to trundle into and out of the city. A group of Bedu that have camped in the night enter the city ahead of you, looking fierce although small, like everybody seems to be in this land, and mysterious in their black garb and head wraps, as you're lining up to go in here. And I don't know, you guys this might have occurred to you that it might be prudent to go in, or Stedford might float the idea that, maybe it would be best just to keep most of the men out here until we, see what's what in the city.
Yeah, I think that's the best plan.
Okay. So yeah, you're lining up to enter through this gate, and you're behind these Bedouin, which are stopped by the guardsmen who ensure that they're not carrying any weapons into the city.
Okay.
But you can see in that open gate there are dwelling houses and irrigated yards just beyond. And finally, you're the next in line. And they're like taken aback at your European-style address, although you're not even in European-style address, really. But your look, but nevertheless, they have no rule by the king to keep anybody out, as long as they're not armed when they come in. And by armed, you're not really talking about like a belt knife or that sort of thing.
Okay.
We're talking guns.
Yeah.
But they still do check you for them. So if you're going into the city and you want to get a gun in there, you'll have to be sneaky about it. Is anybody interested in that?
I'm not. I don't need to take a gun with me.
And Stanton, were you looking to go into the city with?
Not unless I was told to.
Yeah. So
I'll
I guess
stay with
you'd
the
be
men.
calling for the people that want to go in. Dr. Francis Morgan has an academic interest to see it, so he asked if he
let
can
him
come
and
with you.
Cooper and Thompson,
Yeah.
Elias,
And
if he
Elias wants to, because he also has that journalistic instinct, to see what's what.
and Stedford will let him come in.
Okay. So you pass the gate, since none of you have a weapon that they wouldn't want you to take in there, so you can have your Bowie knife or the Jambaya if you'd like, whichever one, or both, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
They
have
kind
them
of give
both.
you like an odd look if you have that one visible,
Yeah.
because it's relevant to them, and they're like, "Why are you wearing it?" But they're not really
Yeah.
asking you questions about it.
Okay.
So yeah, you pass the gate, you see those dwelling houses, and you see like a synagogue there just immediately as you pass the gate, and the signs of like Jewish faith as you mark out the Jewish quarter of the city here. I'll share with you guys a map that Stanton likely had access to.
Mm.
So yeah, you guys are coming on the road here to the left of the map, or where it says from Hodeidah, the Bab al-Ka gate. And there,
Jewish cemetery.
yeah, you have all that. That's kind of their part of the town. And you come across an excavated area where they're, getting clay out for brick making. So there's a bunch of workers down in a pit, shoveling up this clay. And then you have men on top shaping and firing the bricks. But everybody that you pass, literally everybody, spares a moment to stop and stare and even look closely at you. You're such a curiosity. It's not unfriendly, but nor is it welcoming. Exactly. It's like if you've been in a small town, are you sure you're supposed to be here?
Right.
But we'll close today's session as with the shot of you guys walking into Sana'an, seeing all the tower houses as they build them tall here, towering over you. So thanks for playing, guys.
Right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Had fun.
Yeah.
Going for those luck increases.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. This Imam Yahya would not let the Jews leave. This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.